You know something that's funny? For most of my life, I thought that I was just okay at learning, if not bad at times. Like, genuinely. School was difficult. I had to put in a lot of hours to study for stuff. Although I did fine and I had good grades, it took me hours of studying and hours to really pound formulas and knowledge into my brain. Anytime some anytime someone would say, "Oh, you can learn that in a weekend," I'd be like, "No, no, I cannot. I need 6 months and a support puppy." But now, I can pick up new skills way faster than I ever thought I could. Not because I got smarter. I didn't. Not at all. I just figured out how learning actually works. And I want to tell you, like a person to person, I want to tell you some things that I learned that helped me become quote unquote smarter and help me. So, for example, when I was 16, I tried to learn how to play guitar, because I thought that would get me all the huzz. I told everyone I'm going to be good by summer so that we'd be able to have parties and I could be the one guy with a guitar around a campfire, be all movie like. My father bought me the guitar, watched two or three YouTube tutorials, fingers hurt, sounded like a dying mosquito, and I quit. Not because guitar was hard, but because I expected myself to be good immediately. That's the first lie we believe about learning. If I'm bad at this, it means I'm not built for it. And then I move on. No, it just means you're in the ugly phase. Everyone has an ugly phase. Professionals in what they do have had an ugly phase, believe me. I'm sure if they wanted to admit it, it's true. There's the odd gem that doesn't have an ugly phase, but we don't talk about that. Walking, we had one. Talking, we had one. You just don't remember. It's because you were busy drooling. Every human's had an ugly phase trying to learn something, right? So here's the real secret. You don't learn by understanding things. You learn by doing them badly over and over again. And then registering that you're doing this bad, and then slowly picking up on those fine details that make you better. When I learned to cook, I burned pasta. Pasta. Now, mind you, I'm going to be honest, my cooking department I haven't touched a whole lot, but I'm better than what I used to be. It's literally water and noodles. So how the fuck do you burn pasta? But after like the 10th ruined meal, something clicked. My brain went, oh, this again. I recognize this. That's learning, not inspiration, not motivation, just recognition. You gotta understand your brain works like a pattern machine. A pattern machine. It doesn't care about your dreams. It cares about repetition. I remember trying to learn how to talk to people confidently. I still struggle in this department. I used to rehearse sentences in my head like, hello, how are you doing today? Like a robot auditioning for the role of a human. And every conversation felt like I failed a test. I was awkward. But after enough awkward talks, my brain stopped panicking. Not because I became charming, not because awkward became familiar, and familiar feels safe. That's wild, right? You don't get confident by being good, you get confident by being used to fail. All those other people that you might look at and think, man, how are they so confident talking to people? And you're sitting there and you're shy, you're nervous, you're anxious. It's because they probably were shy and anxious and nervous at one point, but they did it so much it just started to come natural. That's what we're talking about. You have just avoided those initial conversations to, practice, to get used and recognize what you're bad at and to improve on it. I know that this is true because for me, I know I'm a pretty antisocial person. I like to keep to myself. I'm not a big socializer. Unless it's my friends from my hometown, I don't really interact with too many new people very often. So when the occasion does come up, I freeze. I get awkward. The conversation's stale. And if we're going to break this down even smaller, let's talk about how most people fail because they try to learn the whole thing. I want to learn coding. I want to learn art. I want to learn a new language. When you have big goals like this, you kind of have to break it down into smaller goals. As much as we like to dream that we could just accomplish our dreams and reach these goals at a short time and everything's perfect and the flowers are blooming and the sun's shining and la-di-da-di-da, but it's just not true. You want to learn? If you want to learn art, you got to learn how to draw one face, how to write one function, how to say one sentence, You got to learn the basics, and then you have to go from there. Simple things can be a long learning experience. We just don't understand it as we get older because we think we should pick up on these things, but we don't realize, if you look back in your time in school, how long and how many classes did you take in art or music, and look how much or how little you learned from that. right? And you had a teacher pushing you and people pushing you. Now, granted, some people are more motivated than others to learn in those classes, but it just goes to show how many hours really needs to be put into these things to be good at it. If you look back to one of those kind of classes and you think about which people were good and how much time they had to put into it to be good, it makes sense. When I tried learning Spanish, I didn't say, I'm going to be fluent. I said, I'm going to order food without panic. That's it. One tiny win. That was going to be my point of testing myself. And that's also a big point. If you're going to learn a lot of things on your own, because it's not like school anymore. We don't have people motivating us and pushing us to reach these goals that we're setting for ourselves. We only have ourselves. And maybe you have a significant other trying to push you as well, but that's just how it is. Learning isn't climbing a mountain. It's stepping on rocks without falling in a river. Here's something that you probably haven't heard of too much either. Your brain also remembers things tied to emotion. I still remember how to change a tire because I learned it in the rain, on the side of the road, while being late for something important, which I'm pretty sure was for a job interview. Stress plus embarrassment just equals permanent memory. It's a pretty simple formula. So if you want to learn something faster, make it personal. Make it really hurt when you do it, kind of thing. Tie it to something you care about, something embarrassing, something funny, or something frustrating. Any one of these emotions can be good fuel for helping you learn something new. Your brain remembers stories, not textbooks. That's kind of a good saying to keep in mind when you're learning. This idea kind of correlates with the fact of if you've ever worked a job and people tell you, learn by trial, throw them to the fire, feed them to the wolves, kind of that big step from when you're learning a new job and they say, okay, now go do it on your own. Maybe a major issue happens and you get stressed out a lot and you're like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm doing this right. And no matter how you turn out, whether if you made out fine in the stressful situation or you didn't, it's still a learning experience because you learn what not to do, or you learn that, holy shit, I did fine, and you feel great about it. Either way is a stepping stone, and either way is a big learning experience. So just remember, sometimes you have to throw yourself to the wolves. Sometimes you have to make that big leap and do something very uncomfortable. So at some point, I stopped asking myself, am I smart enough? And started asking, can I tolerate being bad at this long enough? It's a patience game, really. That's the real question. Because learning anything feels like confusion, frustration, tiny progress, more confusion, sudden clarity, repeat. It's difficult as you get older, like as you navigate your 20s, as you start to learn what early adulthood and adulthood's like. You're so busy with a job and all these other things, and when you have goals and dreams you want to reach and new things you want to learn, it's very difficult to juggle all the stresses and the confusion of day-to-day life at this age. And the cycle of this confusion never stops. Only your patience changes. There'll never be a perfect day to do these things, so you kind of have to remember that in the back of your head. If you're watching this and you're thinking, I wish I could learn faster, you can. Not by grinding harder, not by watching more motivational videos or sick edits, but by shrinking the goal, repeating the ugly part, staying long enough for your brain to recognize it. And you'll make out just fine, I promise. You're not behind, you're just early in the pattern, and hopefully these tips will help you learn faster and reach your goals. Honestly, I wish someone told me this stuff years ago. I'm trying to navigate my 20s, and these are just things I learned, and sometimes people don't learn them on their own, and sometimes it takes somebody else telling them. I wish someone told me this years ago. It would have saved me from quitting guitar and cooking and talking to people like 12 other things that I could have been really, really good at by now, but I'm still working on today. And that's okay. So if there's something you've been avoiding learning, start messy, start dumb, start small. Your future self isn't smarter than you. They're just more practiced. If you got a situation you're working on or a goal you're trying to reach, leave a comment down below and let me know if this video helped at all and how you're going to take your next actions to reaching that goal. Take care. Thanks for watching.